everybody, to another episode of the TPT Podcast, TPT Pachi Podcast, the TPT Podcast. To another episode of the TPT Podcast. And as you can see, I'm happy, I'm cheery, I'm just excited. Zach, aren't you
Same,
just
man.
so excited to talk about this game?
Yeah, for sure. Of course. Great game.
No, but in all seriousness, guys, we gotta talk about this Chiefs game. What a mess. Yeah, there was some good things done in this game, and it's not going to be all bad on today's podcast. So if you're a Chiefs fan, you're listening to this, and you just are expecting just a total shit show coming out of our mouths. No, there are some positives from the game, but my God, that was bad. Versus the Cheeseheads. Zach, what is your first initial thoughts as we just get straight away into this game? Because I just want to get this Band-Aid ripping off just right away as we move on to the Bills here in the next couple of days.
You know how there's like some games where we're losing, but we still think we're gonna win.
Yeah.
This game wasn't one of those games, even though we took the lead. Even though were we up 2 or were we down 2 at a certain point, like the third quarter?
We were up 2. We were up 2. They probably should have went for 2 at one point, which we'll get into, because then we still would have been up by 3 or 1. Even if they would have scored. But yeah, we were up by 2 at one point.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like we were going to win, even though we're the better team. We're up 2 because we couldn't stop them at all. We played the most conservative defense I feel like we've played this year easily. We brought, like, I could count the amount of blitzes we brought, at least.
Right.
Like, how many DB blitzes did we send at all? I mean, we blitzed Cochran a couple times, Willie Gay once or twice, but like this was not our key to success is on defense is sending those blitzes, and we did not do any of that. We played so conservative.
Right. Yeah, Jordan Love is a good quarterback. And we talked about this a little bit beforehand on the Friday episode. Very capable quarterback. I think in his career, I don't know if he'll ever be Aaron Rodgers. I think he can be a Pro Bowl caliber type guy. Maybe like a Russell Wilson type guy. Like, I don't know if he'll ever be great, like a great quarterback, a top 3 or 5 quarterback. But he'll be a guy that's maybe in the top 10 one day. But they made him look like he was Tom Brady. What happened to this top 3, top 5 defense? Steve Spagnuolo, who is a blitzing master, decided, you know what? Jordan Love, who's terrible versus the blitz, we're just not going to blitz. Or if we are going to blitz, it's just not typically how we blitz. Yeah, we're not going to send our typical. No, go ahead.
There's teams we have been blitzing all year, despite going up against like teams like the Eagles and the Jaguars and the Chargers that can take advantage. They have great quarterbacks and receivers that can get open.
Great receivers.
This team has a decent quarterback, but they're kind of in the same boat as us when it comes to receivers. These are not man-beating receivers that are going to win quickly. And that's the team you blitz against. Right. You put the game in Snead and McDuffie's hands and say, hold these people for a couple seconds and let our pressure get there, because it's going to get there if we send blitzes. And we just didn't do that.
Yeah, I've never really had this feeling in the Andy Reid era. They got out-coached. And we also just got – and you see this from time to time with the Chiefs. They just got outmanned, just physical. They were more physical, tough than us. They ran the ball down the throat. There just wasn't a lot of adjustments. I saw Andy Reid, as soon as the game was over, he slammed his board down. Good. The coaching has been so inconsistent. The play calling. And again, I'm never a guy to just, when things aren't going right, just like, oh, play calling. Oh, the play calling sucks. It's just like, well, that's usually not always the case. It's typically execution and personnel, which with the Chiefs, receivers and some of their offensive players, it's 100% personnel. And this is a question I had for Jason Dunn. He's on another great podcast, Chiefs Concerns. I asked this question earlier tonight, and I put, is this the worst Chiefs team Patrick Mahomes has been on? But is this also the lightest playoff opponents he will ever maybe see in the playoffs? And I think both are true. And this is what pisses me off so much about this Chiefs team is you can look at it, and I understand this more than a lot of Chiefs fans. We're not going to win a Super Bowl every year. We're not. There's going to be a year you just don't win it. There's going to be a year you get out of the first round. You don't go to the AFC Championship game. You've been the last 5 years, almost 6 years. But guess what? This should not be the year. Like, with all due respect, the Ravens are a good team. The Chiefs should be the best team in the NFL. The Jags they've beaten, the Dolphins they've beaten. This is the worst Chiefs offense Patrick Mahomes has been a part of as a starter, even as a backup. And then you look at the opponents, and I don't fear Baltimore. I don't. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong at all. They're a good team. But at the end of the day, in the playoffs, their track record, Lamar Jackson's track record, they don't even have their best receiver. And you look at it, and this is the lightest the Chiefs playoff opponents will be, because there's no Baltimore, there's no Buffalo, and there's no Bengals. As bad as Buffalo played, and as bad as the Bengals played at times, they still have one of the better playmakers in the league. And so I just think it sucks that you have this Chiefs team that these receivers are just, they suck. They just suck. They do. Besides Rice, they just suck. And they have just a perfect opportunity to be a Super Bowl winning team. But it's just some of these receivers are just going to hold us down.
Yeah, I don't want to get greedy because, we shouldn't have won last year. If you look at all the things happening around the league, with us trading our second best player and the Bengals being so strong and the Bills being so strong. And so it makes this year feel a lot like it doesn't feel as bad this year because we got that Super Bowl last year. Right. But this will be a blown opportunity because this should be, first of all, be the easiest 1 seed. We already have all the tiebreakers over everyone we're competing with. Right. They're all playing each other all the time. And we are not taking care of business against teams that aren't even supposed to even be close with us. And it's just
real quick. And that's what I think is different from years prior, right? It's like Chiefs always have that Colts loss. They always have that bad loss. But Mahomes never lost to 6-6 teams. I will lose, and I always say this, and I was saying this to the guys I was watching the games. I'll lose to the Eagles. I'll lose to the Eagles. I'll lose to the Bengals. I'll lose to the Bills last year. I'll lose to some of these teams we lost to last year. Why? Because they have the top dog. They got the best of us. It sucks. I hate losing. But losing to Jordan Love, and with all due respect, Jordan Love and Christian Watson, absolutely not. And I think that just goes to your points. Losing to these top teams, losing to Denver. I know you're not going to beat Denver every single year, but losing to some of these teams, and it's just like, man, when's the last time we're just losing to non-playoff teams like this?
Yeah, we have 4 losses already. 2021, we had 4 at this point, I believe, but we won out. As we hit a streak and we just won game after game after game. That, I'm not going to say that's on the horizon for us, and we already have 4 losses, and our schedule is light, but I'm not going to say that we can't lose to the Chargers. The Bills are going to be tough. And, it's just, it's so disappointing. That's all I can say, but I don't want to be too down because the offense looked better last night. We just had very untimely mistakes. 3 red zone sacks in the first half. Mahomes with that, really, it was a bad pick. It looked like an RPO play maybe, and it looked like he just predetermined. He was like, I'm throwing to Sky Moore.
Legal pick. It looked like they were trying to run like a legal pick with Rice going out, and Sky Moore kind of stopped him out, and Mahomes just kind of talking about the interception.
Yeah. And I feel like he predetermined. He was like, I'm throwing this ball. Sky wasn't necessarily open. And if he was going to be open, you were going to want to throw it to his outside, not right at the DB. And but the offense we were moving the ball.
Scored on every possession except for the fourth quarter. And that's what it's scary is even when our offense plays good, our defense almost has to be just, they can't have a game like this.
Yeah.
They can't.
This really did look like a Bob Sutton game. Just from the standpoint, I mean, we allowed 27 points, which is a lot. Bob Sutton defenses really, like, even how bad they were, they did not allow too many points. Like, we were bottom in yardage all the time, especially that first year with Mahomes. But we weren't the worst scoring defense. In this game, we just got drove on every single time. And I mean, it really just showed, it looked like Bob Sutton defense.
And what I want to ask is, like, what the hell changed from last year to this year? So you have a guy like Juju. I would say Rashee Rice and Juju are similar. Obviously, I don't think Rice is quite on pace to what Juju is doing, because Juju pretty much had almost 1,000 yards and he still missed 2 games. But what is so different? MVS was not this bad. I don't think we're understanding how bad I don't think he would make a practice squad on most playoff teams.
Yeah,
I don't
MVS had 600 yards last year.
Yeah, I don't understand. He's on pace for like 200 yards this year. I don't understand what is it the receiving coach? And I know they have a new receiving coach. Greg Lewis is gone. They don't have Greg Lewis, and Greg Lewis was a 10-year pro, was played underneath Andy Reid, coached with Andy Reid for a while. So, like, is it a new receiver coach? Is it Eric Bieniemy not keeping people accountable? I don't know. I know it's not really the play calling, because Andy Reid still calls the plays. Is it maybe a guy like Eric Bieniemy who just kept people accountable, and there's really no coaches that are keeping people accountable? What is the difference from these receivers playing to how they did last year, just to how bad they are this year?
Well, I think we are seeing a regression from Kelce, which is going to take its toll on an offense because of how dominant he's been in the past. Like, he's still the best tight end in the league. He's what we ask of him. Yeah, what we ask of him is unlike any tight end in the league. No tight ends ask as much as he is. And Mahomes isn't playing at the MVP level. Even with all the receivers playing as badly as they are, when we do start to get the ball moving, it doesn't actually seem like Mahomes is playing as good as he was last year, which he's still the best quarterback in the league. He's still elite. Right. But if your 2 most important players aren't playing their best, your offense is going to take a step back, especially with the other factors of, like, losing Juju and having a bunch of young guys rotating in. So it's not surprising their offense is taking a step back. But if Mahomes can get his play up, like, Kelce might just be worse than he was because he's older. But if Mahomes can start to trust the receivers a little more and not give the ball away, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get back in that top 5 offense territory.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, you kind of look at it, they're still kind of in that top 10 to 12 offense, which is crazy, just because they'll have a bad game, scored 27, 24, 30, whatever it may be. Next game, they score 18, 19, 20. And then it's inconsistency. But yeah, if they can just get one other guy besides Rice, Kelce, if that's Richie James. And I think at times you're seeing the offense where it's like, this is our offense. There's times where they're just getting the ball to guys in space. I know there was a play where they kind of just got the ball to Richie James in space, and he picked up a first down. I'm like, that's it. That's our offense right now. It has to basically go back to the Alex Smith offense, where you're just like, we have kind of just slot guys. We have just kind of guys who can make people miss in open space, or kind of just kick returners. That's Hardman or whoever. Just get them the ball and type of screen type play, especially Rice, and they're going to just pick up 7 or 8. And that's how we're going to be. We're not going to be able to just keep dropping back and just keep trying to throw deep routes to MVS, who it's the connection is just not there. So I don't know what it is from what is the drop off from last year when Mahomes was closing in on a 5 or 50 touchdown season, compared to this year where he may not even barely throw for 4,000 yards this year. It's just astonishing. One thing I will say that's changed, that in a positive note here, there are some good things, like we just mentioned. There was an emphasis for a majority of the game getting the ball to Rice, getting the ball to Checo. Checo, a great game. I know he got ejected, the punch and all that, but he had a good game. I like how they ran the ball.
Yeah, but I think some of the things you just brought up really points to an offense having a low ceiling. Like our offense, which you wouldn't normally say when you have such a dynamic quarterback as Mahomes, but if the only way we can get stuff going is by doing screen passes and short hitches,
Yeah.
the ceiling of that offense is not high because the more plays you have, the more chances you have for turnovers and the more chances you have for sacks. And so when we don't have that big playability, it really just that's that many more drives that don't turn into touchdowns. And so I'm hoping we can find a steady floor. But if that's the only way we can produce running the ball and then those short routes and screen passes, then that's a really low ceiling.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, that nails the head. Like that's the nail in the coffin. Is like it stinks because when you get the ball with like a minute left, you're like, in the past, like I never thought I would have this type of mindset with Mahomes on your roster. It's like, well, the likelihood of us scoring is slim because there's just no big playability. There's just no one who can give you 15 yards. Maybe Kelsey every now and then. I get, like I said, there's, and I don't want to say Kelsey's having a bad year because it's like acting like he has that 1,500 yards. Like he's not even at the point yet where he's like that 800-yard kind of like just go get a first down type guy out Broncos late in his career. He's still a 1,000-yard receiver. I think he has over 800 yards already.
Yeah.
So it's like he has over 800 yards already. He's going to get 1,000. He's going to get 1,000. He's had over 75 yards in the last 2 games. Obviously, he's just not getting the scored in the red zone, but the penalties and the sacks in the red zone, that's troubling. And it's pushed us out of field goal. I mean, we were scoring on every single drive except for the fourth quarter. It was really just our defense, at the end of the day, we kind of just was lackluster. And then our offense just could not be big in the fourth quarter. The turnover at the end was huge to make an 8-point game. I mean, we got to remember that was a 5-point game where Mahomes could just go score and boom, we make that a 2-point game. We're up by 2. We go up by 2, and he throws that pick. But I think it's the urgency sometimes we have where it's like we have to have it all at once because in the past Mahomes has been able to just find a guy downfield.
No, but you're so right when you brought up like 2-minute drill. We're not a 2-minute drill team anymore. There's no potential. Like I wasn't confident when we got the ball late last game, and I was not like, oh yeah, we can go. I actually told my dad, I was like, normally in the past we're feeling pretty good right now with a chance to go and take the lead at the end of the game. I'm like, I doubt we get 3 first downs. And if the penalties, I mean, we're talking about the pass interferences, but if that late hit penalty didn't happen, and if the pass interference before didn't happen on the defense, we're not even in that situation to go for the Hail Mary. Or we just couldn't. We got bailed out. Like I'm not gonna lie, that was a bad call. I mean, we could have gotten the first down regardless, but we got bailed out by the refs.
Yeah, that's something I want to address. That was one, and both sides. That was one of the worst officiating games I've seen in a while.
Yeah,
Creed Humphrey holding. Creed Humphrey with a beautiful block, and then it's holding, and then that has to be a kick. Then you have the Mahomes, the roughing the QB. He's not even out of bounds yet. Then you have it where they can't get the receiver rights down. Then you have the blatant pass interference. Pass interference. And they want to do, was it catchable or not? I don't care how bad. I don't care. Well, they're thinking it's MVS, so I think that's when the catchable factor came in. But he's on his back. And then I know people are going to say it's a Hail Mary at the end of the game. They're never going to call that. But when you shove a tight end going up for the ball and you basically shove him and then tackle just Watson. Like there's at some point where it's like, I get it. There's going to be a little nudging, but like you literally you're shoving him. Like
I will never ask. I will never ask for end of game DPI. I just won't. Like when I saw the replay, I
understand that, but I understand that, but I'm just saying there comes to a point where it's like if I'm throwing. So if that was in the first quarter, first play of the game, you're at the 50-yard line, you throw that. Are they calling it?
Are they?
I mean,
if there's that many people back there, probably not, honestly. Because that would be a cheat code.
But I'm saying if Huh?
I said because that would be a cheat code. You could just throw Hail Marys all game.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I were to do that same play, and like there's 4 guys go to the end zone and they all just bat it down, they're climbing on my back and they just shove me. I'm assuming that ref is like, I'm going to call it. I just think they have that mindset. Well, it's late in game. I have to put my whistle in my pocket. There should be no changing of how you call a game, no matter if it's the last play of the game or the first play of the game. I think that's what people have the problem with the Super Bowl was, well, you can't call that because it's done at the end of the game. So I can hold in the first quarter. I can get PIs all day in the first quarter and they call it. But in the fourth quarter, if I do it, it's all fair game. It's all okay. See, that's where I just draw the line. And what are you calling? If it's a flag, it's a flag. But since it's on a Hail Mary, it's on a flag. And I get that. You got to let the guys play, stuff like that, on Hail Marys and shit like that. But I just want the NFL refs this season to be just more consistent on just what they're calling. I thought that was just one of the worst. I'm not blaming this game on the refs. That's what I want this people on this podcast to understand. I mean, a lot of Chiefs fans right now who are blaming the refs for this loss. We did not lose because of the refs. Nope. We didn't lose because of the refs. And second of all, quickly, we did not lose because we shot ourselves in the foot. We did not lose because, the Chiefs lost. The Chiefs lost that Eagles game because the Chiefs, like, the Eagles didn't win. The Chiefs lost that game versus the Eagles. Denver. The Denver didn't really win that game. The Chiefs just lost it. This game, Packers beat us.
Packers beat us. They were marching down the field like we used to march down the field.
Every single time.
Wide open receivers.
Christian Watson, again, and I like some of these guys developing, but it just when you have to have your defense, carry over or just carry you every single game, and they're going to have games like this. And that's what's disappointing is in the past, it was like, this team has to score 30 to beat us. Like, let's think about that. Like, that's how it used to be. Like, this team has to have, especially like the Packers, they're going to have 35. They're going to have damn near 40 points to beat this Chiefs team. And those days, it's just like, hopefully not for long. And not, this season looking like those days are just dead.
And I want to bring up, this was the most horrible game to watch. When a team has one possession every quarter until the fourth quarter, I don't want to watch that game.
Right.
That is the Packers. They were just
each.
That was like, I swear, the Packers' first drive took like 10 minutes, it seemed like.
10 minutes.
We get the ball.
Nine
we had a long drive that ended in a field goal. Same exact thing happened the next two possessions. They get a long touchdown. We get a long field goal. It's like they controlled that game from the coin flip. And I hate those type of games. I hate when teams just control the clock. That's so boring.
And that's what it was. This it felt like a pre-Mahomes, almost a pre-Alex Smith game where the team is just controlling the clock the entire time. And that's how you kind of beat the Chiefs, is if you can run the ball. And that's really what I want to talk about is our run defense. How concerned are you about some of these injuries that are piling up? We just have injury after injury. Apparently, Green Bay field sucks. Well, like Kirk Cousins getting hurt. All these guys every week getting hurt. You had Watson almost pull a freaking hamstring because he was trying to slide in bounds. So it's just, you got a lot of these guys just getting hurt in Lambeau. But how concerned are you about some of these injuries that are piling up for the Chiefs?
I mean, it's what happens throughout the season. We're relative, like we're very healthy compared to most teams. Most of our injuries, like if we get one minor injury a game. This game was terrible. That first half, Brian Cook, Drew Tranquill, Donovan Smith. But sadly for Brian Cook, I mean, he's a good young player. Like, it sucks to lose him for the year. But Tranquill, if it's a concussion, we'll have him. We'll hopefully have Donovan. I mean, Donovan Smith came back in the game. And so it seemed really bad during the game because it seemed like they were dropping like flies. But I think we'll be fine in the long run with the injuries that happened this game. It just sucks. It really sucks for Brian. He looked devastated.
Yeah, it sucks. Dude playing really well. Well. He had that the return fumble. I mean, he's had such a good season. Second year guy, was the starter in that secondary as a safety over veteran like Mike Edwards. That's where Mike Edwards is gonna have to step up. I know he's more of like a ball hawking guy. He's not the best, just like pure, just like God that's gonna go out and just cover a a tight end or even like a fast receiver. We know he got burned during that Eagles game. But yeah, it sucks to lose a guy like Brian Cook. Hopefully Nick Bolton's coming back. Hopefully Drew's okay because Drew's playing so well. Jack Conklin, special teams guy. I thought he had some good plays. Obviously, there were some times where he was confused. He had some big, I think he had 2 or 3 tackles for a loss. So he had some good plays on the running backs, but there was times, obviously, he was confused. First time out there, he was not expecting to be out there.
Yeah, it looked like when he could see how the play was developing, he had a good nose for the ball, but it seemed like he got lost a lot, especially compared to a guy like Tranquil.
Yeah, exactly. It was a guy who's a special teams guy, was not expected to just be thrown back out there and have to basically be the green dot guy until 10-year veterans and vets were to go on the field. Where did the Chiefs, as we kind of just wind down the podcast here on just a yucky Monday, and we just before we move on to the Bills later in the week, but where do the Chiefs just go from here, man?
I mean, I can't give them any direction because, like we were talking about their ceiling, we just need to learn to raise our floor. We need to learn how to protect the ball and play better in the red zone because we had red zone opportunities. I mean, you said we had 6 possessions, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, an interception, and a punt, correct? Or a turnover on it, or whatever.
So,
or maybe the last possession of the game.
So I think it was either 7 or 6. So at the end, we went punt. In the fourth quarter, we went punt, interception, downs.
Yikes.
And then, so how many times did we score before that? 3?
4, right?
So it's 7 possessions. 7. So it's 7 possessions. And they had, I want to say, 7 possessions as well, or 8 possessions.
We had 4 trips deep into the red zone. We had 2 touchdowns and 2 38-yard field goals.
Yeah, I know for a fact we had 7 possessions. That's it.
Yeah. This was really more, hopefully this is a down game for the defense and not them regressing to their actual form. Because I've seen it when Spags draws up the blitzes and when Snead plays physical and when Chris Jones is winning, they're an elite unit. But we didn't see any of that last night. None of that. Chris Jones actually had a few quick wins, but Jordan Love was just so good at getting it out to his receivers. And so, we just keep practicing, guys. Keep practicing. Raise that floor and take care of the ball, and we'll be fine in this conference. But that part.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's right now I think they're all the way to the 3rd seed. But if they win this next coming game, they'll go all the way back to the 2 seed. They just need obviously Jags and need Dolphins and Ravens.
Aren't we the 4 seed?
Oh, we're out of the 4 seed.
Hey, that's what I was thinking about. That would be interesting. Us as a 4 seed, maybe we get to play like Cleveland or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so if we're the 4th seed, you obviously want that first round bye. That's huge.
Yeah.
But if we are the 4th seed, so what you want is this. If the Chiefs, someone told me, I'm from the future, the Chiefs do not get the 1st seed. You want the Jags to get that 1st seed. You do. You want the Jacksonville Jaguars I would say Jacksonville
Jags.
Or Miami. Well, I would say Jags because come playoff time, I just was at the Jags game. Obviously, one, I would want it to be Jags so I could go watch the Chiefs stomp them in Jacksonville. So say you want the Jags to get the 1st seed. You want them to go all the way to the AFC Championship game so you can play in an unhostile environment like Duval. With all due respect, I've been to Jacksonville. It is not the worst place to play. And plus, you're going to have 60-degree, just perfect football weather. You don't want to go play in in Baltimore, where it's just freezing cold. Even Miami. Again, you don't want to play Tyreek Hill and those guys again. But if you have to have someone get a 1st seed, and outside those 3 teams right there, you want it to be Jacksonville. You do. You want to go. You have to go play an AFC Championship game in Jacksonville. So freaking be.
Yeah, and actually, Jacksonville, as we're recording this podcast, they're losing to the Bengals in the 3rd quarter by 7. So they might follow us to the 4 seed and we'll be the 3 seed after tonight.
Jags are losing.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So we need, obviously we want Jacksonville to lose. You want Jacksonville lose. You need the Ravens lose. Who do the Ravens? The Ravens play this weekend. I'm if I'm not mistaken, I know they still have.
They play the Rams.
Miami and
they play the Rams.
The Rams.
Yep.
And the Rams are fighting for a playoff spot right now. They are the 8th seed in the NFC, or the 9th seed in the NFC. So they're fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and the next week, Jacksonville plays Cleveland, and Miami plays Tennessee. But that's probably W. And that's
Miami won. Luckily, we beat Miami. So Miami, I think, still has to play. I want to say Jacksonville, one of these better teams coming up.
Yeah,
they
Buffalo.
still have a couple. So they still got some games left, and that's the thing that sucks. The Chiefs. Let's be not real. The Chiefs' schedule coming up. You have Buffalo, who again they have not played good this season. They cannot put things together, but they have guys. They can put a game together 100%. And you go play New England. The worst team in the league. One of the worst teams I've seen in a long time. Then you go play the Bengals, then the Raiders again, and then you have the Chargers. So they should win out. The Chiefs should win out. There should be nothing left.
Jayden, we said this last week. We said the exact same thing.
Correct. I know we said this last week. There's no reason for them to be losing to the Packers. They absolutely should win out. There's not a game I look at during the schedule and I say, this is a game this should be even a close game. Let's go through just the QB matchups alone. You got to go play Josh Allen. Obviously, he's Josh Allen. But luckily they're at home. Then you go play. Is that Bailey, or is it going to be Mac Jones?
We don't know.
It's probably Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones. Okay. Then you go play Jake Browning. I think that's his name, Jake Browning. Yep. Then you got to go play Aiden O'Connell again, and then you have Justin Herbert. But if you play it right and you win out and you get to that Chargers game, your guys can sit. That's why I think this Packers loss was so devastating, because you could have had it where you basically have 2 weeks off for your starters. You can get all your guys healthy, all your guys right, and you can just be so ready going into the postseason. All your receivers with another just bye week to just try to get things right. And if you win out and you get to that Chargers game, you'd basically probably still need the Dolphins to lose one, the Jags to lose one, and the Ravens to lose one. So even though the Chiefs only have 2 losses in the AFC this year, only 2 losses in the AFC. So, or is it 1 loss?
1. It's 1.
Denver's 1 loss. Okay. So, they still have one of the better, because I know Baltimore's 2 losses in the division, but they have the better overall record. So, I think the Chiefs, again, there's times where they put things together and they find ways to just have their offense clicking. But this game, I said it to my dad, is when Romeo Doubs catch that 4th and 1 just prayer, I looked at him, I said, sorry, Pops, one of those days. I said, the Chiefs will not win this game. And he said, come on, man, it's the 3rd quarter. I said, it's one of those days. If they're catching passes like that, they're having that, it's just one of those days. Zach, what is your final thoughts as we wrap the podcast up? Your first initial thoughts going into Buffalo, and just the 2 things that the Chiefs need to get right versus a team like Buffalo.
Well, against Buffalo, Josh Allen is really good against the blitz. He's similar to Mahomes in that aspect, but that's our identity. Mm-hmm. And this might as well be called the Blitz podcast, because I feel like all I talk about is blitzing, but that's what we do best. Our entire team, offense, defense, special teams, other than Harrison Butker kicking the ball, our best thing is blitzing. And so we got to bring it. We have to bring it. We got to somehow force turnovers, and we can't play soft like we did, because they'll eat us up, and Josh Allen will run all over us if we do that. So we got to blitz and offense. Mahomes has to protect the ball, and let's continue to run the ball. We don't always win when we run the ball, but at some point it'll start opening up other stuff, hopefully.
Yeah, Pacheco, great game. Pacheco. Frustrated, the frustration got the better of him. The guy was kind of mushing on the ground, but the refs always are going to see the retaliation almost every single time. Refs are going to see the retaliation. Look at a team like the Eagles. They just got their ass beat. And look at the team like the 49ers. They've gotten beat this year. The Chiefs, again, if you look at the AFC, they're still a team where, again, if they can just find ways late in the season to just have guys make plays, they'll be okay. And that's the thing. Look at all these games. They just need one or two guys to just step up and make a play, and they'll be all right. Well, guys, that will do it for today's episode. There was the good, there was the bad, and yes, there was the ugly from this Chiefs team, but we'll be back later on in the week to preview this Bills game. We got to get the Bills. We've kind of had our number in the regular season, even though we get them in the playoffs. We got to get the Bills. Big game coming up. We will see you guys next time on the TPT podcast.